Hey everyone, today we are going to correct pages 92 and 93 in your grammar workbook. So please turn to page 92 right now and let's begin. This is actually a continuation of page 91. If you look, this is actually the second half of 163. So we are going to make corrections, notate what's wrong, and then you will write it out again on a separate sheet of paper. We'll go back to the instructions. Check the mechanics, mark your revisions on this page, and then write the selection on a separate sheet of paper. You may have to write more than one draft to get it right. Okay, so you've already done that first half page. This is a little bit of a larger section, but we will start. Very first, we have an appropriateness error. Them folks. We're going to put APPR. Now, that, according to our correction symbols that's found in the back of our handbook, that means appropriateness. For those of you who this is your first video, this is what I made a photocopy from, which is the back cover of the Handbook for Grammar and Composition. This book, right in the back. It's the back cover. Right there. Okay. For convenience, I just made a photocopy because it's easier to slide it in here and out. All right, so that should be those folks, or not those folks, those people, because if you also recall, the instructions said we're supposed to correct this for formal English, and you wouldn't use folks to refer to people in formal writing. Those people looking to the ISS as a symbol of global cooperation do have reason to be proud. The space station is the fruit of a partnership of nations, including the United States, Canada, Japan, Russia, and 14 Western European nations. Okay, there's several things. We're missing commas here, and instead of putting the commas there, we're just going to put P's for punctuation. Don't forget the comma after Russia, because the one before the conjunction we call the Oxford comma, and we teach the use of the Oxford comma. Okay, now this 14 is a small enough number that it should have been written out in words. So NUM is the abbreviation. Use of numbers. Okay. Considering the fact that some of these nations have been enemies in the past, well, that should be PAST, right? So that's the wrong word. WW means wrong word. This is quite an achievement. And it is easy to see how some people might consider something's wrong there. Let's see. Oh, yes, okay, I see. Let's look at the beginning at the top of the sentence. Considering the fact that some of these nations have been enemies in the past, comma, this is quite an achievement. There should be a period there, and we start a new sentence. So we're going to say that from here to here is a run-on. And it is easy to see how some people might consider the ISS a step towards peace, but then, as many others have pointed out, it could also prove to be the source of contention if nations in the partnership should have fallen out. Wow, that's a run-on also. So let's look for the next complete sentence. If we've said this starts the next sentence, it is easy to see how some people might consider the ISS a step forward, but then, as many others have pointed out, it could, okay, so we've got this. So this, it is easy to see how some people might consider the ISS a step toward peace. So this is another run-on because it is easy to see how its piece is not related as much to the next part, which is, let's see, as many of, so you would actually just get rid of then, as, and that starts a new sentence. As many others have pointed out, comma, it could also prove to be a source of contention if nations in the partnership should have a falling out. Now that is a good sentence, okay. Falling out is informal. So if nations in the partnership should have a something more formal than falling out, since that's kind of a slang. Should have a second thought, or should have, if nations, should have a skirmish, or should have a disagreement. Disagreement would work. We'll just notate it as appropriateness, okay? But you might put disagreement there because we're talking about the nations in the partnership having a disagreement with one another. You know, this nation and this nation. These two nations are having something, a disagreement. Okay, the ISS might just as easily lead to war as encourage peace. Okay. We're done with that. Going on, as a place for scientific research, the ISS has certainly been a success. I think that's a good sentence like it is. Astronauts aboard the space station are able to conduct experiments not possible on Earth. I don't know. What does the book say? Because I would have corrected that. I guess not. I guess they say that's okay. That are impossible on Earth would probably be a little better, but I'm not going to mark it because they didn't. But Earth right here should be capitalized. Yeah, I should have written there, cap, because that means use capital letter. And then there should be a comma after this clause. See, astronauts in the space station are able to conduct experiments not possible on Earth, comma, where the force of gravity is much stronger, period. So that's it, punctuation. And much, I didn't even see that because it's so bad, my brain didn't register it. Much more stronger, no way. That is not appropriate. Some of these here experiments, this is appropriate or inappropriate, have advanced medical technology, and others have yielded valuable discoveries in the area of energy consumption and fuel efficiency. That should be the end of a sentence, and then we start a new one. So that's a run on. Of course, much of the research aboard the ISS is related to astronomy and space exploration. Okay? Only time will tell how the ISS will affect life on Earth. That's the wrong effect. The affect is the verb. Effect is a noun. So we need to put GL because that was in our glossary of diction section. Let's see. Let me find that glossary of diction. Here it is. So it's probably in the A's since it's affect would be first. Yes, it's 35.5, affect and effect. Affect means to influence, which is what we're talking about here. Effect means to accomplish or to produce. Effect is a noun, means the result of some action. So effect is a noun, affect is the verb. All right. So affect is needed here because that's supposed to be the verb. All right. Although forecasts are indeed intriguing, that's a sentence fragment. So we need it to continue. That although forecasts are indeed intriguing would be what we call a dependent clause, and a dependent clause needs a comma, and it has to hang off of an independent clause, right? Otherwise, it's not a complete thought. Many of the project envisioned for the ISS will take years to complete, and many unforeseen obstacles are sure to challenge mankind along the way. That sounds good. Whether the ISS brings peace or war also remains to be seen. I like that. One thing is certain, however, and that is this. That is wordiness, I think. What did they say? Yep, WDY for wordiness. The ISS is definitely a big step for mankind in our pursuit for knowledge about the Earth and our solar system. All right, so this should be lowercase. And you ask me, well, why is this one lowercase and this one is uppercase? So the Earth is talking about that ball of dirt but without the word the, we're actually calling it by its proper name, Earth. It's not possible in Toledo, like Toledo, Ohio, right? But this is more like saying it's not possible in the state. If you said in the state of Ohio, then Ohio, of course, would be capitalized. But at any rate, that's why the word the is kind of calling it out. All right. All right, well, that's good. Now, let's turn the page and do page 93. This has its own set of instructions. Reviewing agreement and usage. Cross out any incorrect words, any incorrect or inappropriate to standard form of English. Any words that are incorrect or inappropriate to standard formal English. So we're still dealing with formal, right? Not informal, and certainly not substandard. So write in corrections where necessary. Now this time they want us to cross them out and fix them instead of notating them with correction symbols. Okay, so let's do that. When Jared's neighbor said that he was going to bed so that Jared could go home, comma, Jared quickly implied that he had wore out his welcome. Okay, there's only two problems that I see. Implied is wrong because implied is, you would use that if you were doing it. Like if I could say, you know, I didn't want to go out with her, and I implied that I didn't want to go out with her, but I didn't outright say it, so she doesn't understand. See how I implied it, but I didn't say it? That's something I do. But on the other hand, you know, I really don't think that she wanted to go out with me. I mean, she didn't say she didn't want to go out with me, but I inferred from what she said that she didn't want to go out with me. See how that works? So if I'm seeing it in someone else, I'm inferring it of someone else. But if it's the use of imply, means I'm gonna imply something rather than say it, but I'm the one speaking. Okay, so that should be infer or inferred, and that he had worn, W-O-R-N. All right. Next sentence, number 2. Us Reed boys, Blake, Kent, and me, want to have visited the spot at Kitty Hawk where the Wright brothers, Orville, and him first flied their plane. We have some problems here. First, subjects are supposed, if you have that's a pronoun. Us is a pronoun. Being used as the subject. Us, it should be we, because I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, who, whoever. Those are nominative case pronouns. If you recall, nominative case pronouns can be used as predicate nominatives, nominative case, and subjects. All the rest of the pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, like they've used here, you, and them, are objective case pronouns, and they can be used in direct objects, indirect objects, objects of preposition. Any of those functions that have the word object in them. So we need to change this to we. Now, we read boys. Boys is actually the subject, but this is in the subject section of the sentence. We and read are describing boys, so Anyway, it's nominative case because it's this side of the predicate. All right. Blake, Kent, and now this isn't a positive, but the appositive is standing in for the subject. So I, not me, because I is nominative case. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, who, whoever. All those are used either for predicate nominatives if there's a linking verb, or for subjects, or all of the or anything that's in that subject section. So an appositive needs to be treated like a subject if it's the positive of a subject. So I could have gotten rid of all that and said, Blake, Kent, and I want to have visited. Okay. Now, have visited is a problem too, because we want to visit is really what you're asking for, because want is not past tense. Wanted to have visited might have been it, but they currently want, and so we need to use a present tense, visit. The spot at Kitty Hawk where the Wright brothers, Orville, and him first flied their plane. All right, well, we'll fix, let's just fix flied now, because that's hard to even look at. They didn't fly to their plane, did they? They flew. Oh, that's okay. I didn't mean to scratch out there, because there's okay. But they flew their plane. They first flew their plane. Okay, let's go back to this pronoun. It's the opposite of this one. I'm sorry, it's not the opposite. It's the same as this one. Him is an objective case pronoun. Me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. Him, me, him, her, it. That's objective case. We are talking about the subject of this phrase. Orville and him is the positive of the subject of this clause, not phrase. Wright brothers flew plane, right? Wright brothers is the subject. This is an appositive of a subject. So we need to say, he first flew their plane. It would be just like saying, he flew his plane. We would use nominative case. All right, number 3. Virginia's first Commonwealth governor, Patrick Henry, moved in the governor's palace where no one except English crown governors lived before. Okay, there's a few problems here. Let's start at the beginning. Virginia's first Commonwealth governor, Patrick Henry. That's so governor is the subject. Patrick Henry is a positive of the subject, but it's all fine. It looks good. The verb is moved in the governor's place. We do not say in when we're talking about being inside. So into went in. Not now if he lived in the governor's place, that's one thing because he's already there. But we're talking about moving from outside to inside. So he moved into the governor's palace where no one except, that's the wrong word. That should be E-X-C-E-P-T. Except is short for exception, or at least it has the same root. And an exception is, something that's, it's not like all the rest. So if you are taller than everyone else, you could say, everyone is relatively short. I'm the exception to that. So where no one except English crown governors lived before. Well, had lived is the appropriate case. Had lived before. Okay? Now, courtesy-wise, remember that is an issue with the when you put wise on something, it seems like that one was in the glossary of terms as well at the very end of the glossary of terms. Or glossary of diction. I think it was under wise. People use the word wise to turn nouns into adverbs. See that? Used by writers of jargon to turn nouns into adverbs, like profit-wise, production-wise, policy-wise, tax-wise. So it says don't use that. So we need to correct it. So instead of saying courtesy-wise, let's read the whole sentence and see. it will be good to leave the parents go through the line first. It's hard to read when there's so many mistakes. So it would be courteous to let the parents, perhaps, yeah, it would be courteous to let the parents go through the line first. So let's change it to let it would be courteous to let the parents go through the line first. Okay, good. My brother Jack, which took sick on the subway this afternoon, will hopefully be some better by tonight, being as we are going out for a steak dinner. Okay, so gosh, I'm so tempted to start from the end and go back, but well, I guess we can. So the last thing that sounded wrong was being as we are going out. Well, really, because, right? Let's see what they said. They said since. Since is probably more accurate because if we read it again, will hopefully be some better tonight since we are going out for a steak dinner. Since, yes, it's because of the fact, because would work, but since is better. All right, let's just start again from the top. My brother Jack, which took sick, okay, which became ill. Oh, and which is wrong too, because if you recall, which is used for things only. Who is used for people, and that is used for both things and people. So we need to change which to who became ill on the subway this afternoon. Okay, that sounds good. Will, we don't need hopefully, be some better? No, somewhat better. Now, we don't substitute some for somewhat. Somewhat better by tonight since we are going. Okay, so all that's right except for my brother. If we're going to, my brother Jack is fine, except instead of saying will hopefully be somewhat better, way down here in the sentence, the whole statement is about the hope for him being better. So we need to say instead, we hope, and then make that lowercase. My brother Jack, who became ill on the subway this afternoon, will be somewhat better by tonight since we are going out for a steak dinner. That's a better sentence. That was a tough one. All right. Number 6. Anyone which cannot control their tongue will have less friends. Well, okay, so we've got to change which to who because, again, which is used for things only. Anyone who cannot control their tongue, there is plural. Anyone is singular, so we need to change there to his. And remember, okay, this is formal English, and still in formal English, if you don't know the sex of the person that the pronoun's referring to, then you just use him or his, okay? So that's just the way formal English is. Now, they is commonly used in informal English. Okay. And then we'll have less friends. Well, let's fix less first. Use less for things you can't count, fewer for things you can't, and you can count your friends. So we'll do fewer friends. This is an elliptical clause that needs to be fixed. Sometimes elliptical clauses are okay, but not in formal English. So let's figure out what the rest of the clause should have been. Anyone who cannot control his tongue will have fewer friends than he would have otherwise, or than he would otherwise, something like that. Because anyone who cannot control his tongue will have fewer friends than. Fewer than go together. So we have to end up putting than he might have otherwise, or would have will, yeah, have, because we have will have, would have, otherwise. Okay, that's a good correction. Now, I want you guys, if you're still watching this video, I want you to show me that you are by circling the 3. Okay, thank you. Number 7. By noon, all of the drivers will earn his starting positions for tomorrow's race. Okay, so this is the opposite. In this case, we've got his, but we've got all the drivers. So that means there's multiples. So we need there. And then instead of will earn, this is in the past. See, by noon, I'm sorry, this is in the future. By noon, all the drivers will have already earned, right? So we've got, it's in the future, but once we're in the future looking back. So by noon, all the drivers will have earned, their starting positions for tomorrow's race. That's all that's on that one. I wanted to take a second to go over specifically why will have earned is the appropriate tense for this verb. It is will have earned is future perfect tense. Okay, future perfect tense. If you or have your book, your handbook, is on page 66, section 10.27, and I want you to read that. It says, use the future perfect tense to indicate an action or condition that will be completed before some other action or condition will be completed. Well, let's look at this. By noon, all the drivers will have earned their starting position for tomorrow's race. So this is in the future, but it has to come before noon, which is the other future thing. So other future event. So you see, it will be completed before some other future action or condition. So earning their position will be completed before noon. There. Okay. So this is future perfect tense. Will have earned. Okay. There. All right. Now, number 8. The officer demanded that everyone rises at the tortuous hour of 3 o'clock in order to have been ready to leave for the war games. Yikes. I'm not sure I like that one at all. All right, so this is just the wrong word. I'm going to fix it because I don't think I can read it again if we don't put torturous. 3 o'clock in the morning is torturous. Yes, you guys think 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning is torturous. Okay, so now let's go back to the beginning. The officer demanded that everyone rises. He demanded that everyone rise. If it were one person, it would be rises. The officer demanded that John, no, it isn't either. It's because it's one. If it were more than every individual person rises. If they all, every individual person rise. At any rate, it's everyone rise at the torturous hour of 3 o'clock in order to have been, that's clearly wrong, ready to leave. In order to be ready to leave for the war games. Okay, next. I am not sure that me enrolling at this time is wise, so I am withdrawing my application. Okay, this one is that kind of obscure rule. It makes sense, but this enrolling is a gerund phrase, or enrolling begins a gerund phrase. Enrolling at this time. Okay, so, and if you have a pronoun, a personal pronoun that precedes a gerund phrase, then it needs to be the possessive form, meaning ownership. So that should be my enrolling at this time, okay? And then let's look at it again. I think, okay, so I am not sure that my enrolling at this time is wise, so I am withdrawing my application. We need to get rid of so and you do since, because that is what we're actually trying to say. Since, or because I'm not sure that my enrolling at this time is wise, comma, I am withdrawing my application. Okay. So is so informal. You know, I mean, that's how you can remember it. So is so informal because you say that when you're talking with your friends. I just, you know, but so you would get rid of so and say, since I'm not, comma, I will. Next. Okay, so hopefully the media is not going to irritate the situation by inferring in its articles that our president is a warmonger. Okay, so lots of problems, but they're all things we've dealt with before. We hope, not hopefully, that's a glossary of terms item. The media is plural. All those different media people, all the different channels and all the different newspapers. So the media are not going to, irritate is not the right word. Not going to aggravate the situation by, and remember, we infer if they say it, they're doing it intentionally. They're implying. So INPLYING. Now, if they were to not be doing it, but we were the ones that were reading something into it, that would be inferring. Okay. You say, I infer, he implied. I inferred, she implied. We inferred, they implied. Okay. Being as no one ever know who or what you are for or who or what you are against, we won't do nothing to support you being elected. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's fix that one. Being as, nope, that's gobbledygook. Because no one ever knows. I'm going to skip this one. Who is wrong, but I'll skip one. I'll skip this who as well, because I want to explain that one better. We won't do nothing. We will. That's a double negative otherwise. Won't is negative, so is nothing. We will do nothing to support you being elected. Being is a gerund. Being elected is a gerund phrase, just like up here, enrolling at this time. So we've got to change you to your, Y-O-U-R, because your is possessive. And the rule states that if a pronoun comes before a gerund phrase, then you use the possessive form. You're being elected. Okay? Now, let's go back to the who's. If you recall, in fact, I'm going to write them. Our pronouns. We have nominative case, and we have objective case. Okay? These are the cases. First person, I. Second person, you. Third person, he, she, it. And then we've got the plurals. We, you, they, who, whoever. Then objective case, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them, whom, whomever. Okay, so we have to determine whether the who or whom is the right word, because it depends on whether it's nominative case or objective case. Before we look at the sentence, nominative case is used for subjects and predicate nominatives. Objective case is I-O-D-O-O-P, and if it's in a positive of a direct object, or in a positive of an object of preposition, or in a positive of an indirect object, or if it is a objective complement, then we use objective case. So let's see what these are. Because no one ever knows who or what you're for, it's actually, okay, this is going to be hard to explain. Maybe not, maybe not. This is, in English, we have decided that in certain cases where pronouns are objects of preposition, we can drop the preposition to, okay? So really this is, it's not incorrect, okay? But what they're really saying here is because no one ever knows to whom, because we use whom for objects of prepositions, to whom or to what you are for. So that's got to be whom, because it's an object of a preposition, but the to is just dropped. It's like an understood to, like an understood you, okay? And it's, I'm sorry that it's that way, but it just is. And you'll see that often. To whom or what, I'm sorry, not to whom, so we drop the to. Because no one ever knows who, whom, or what you are for, or whom or what you are against, we will do nothing to support your being elected. Now that is correct, okay? That's hard work. Hopefully this is helping though, going through and in this detail. Get those corrections made and upload them to the assignment, and I will give you credit. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep on working. Bye-bye.